The year 2147 marked a pivotal turning point in human history, the year we discovered we weren't alone in the universe. It began with an anomaly detected by the Deep Space Monitoring Network, a series of interlinked satellites and listening posts stretching across the solar system. This anomaly, initially dismissed as a glitch in the system, was actually the first faint signals of an alien ship entering our solar system. The world watched in awe as the first images of the Gorax ship were broadcasted. This massive, sleek vessel, bristling with what appeared to be advanced weaponry and propulsion technology, approached Earth with what many hoped were peaceful intentions. The United Nations, having established a protocol for such an event, sent out greetings in multiple languages, including mathematical and musical sequences, aiming to convey peaceful intentions. Negotiations began under tense yet hopeful conditions. The Gorax, humanoid but larger, and with a chitinous skin that shimmered under different light, communicated through a device that translated their clicking language into English. Diplomatic talks were held aboard the International Space Station, transformed into a neutral meeting ground. Earth's representatives, led by seasoned diplomat Dr. Jonah Michaels, worked tirelessly to establish a foundation of trust and cooperation. However, tensions escalated when a misunderstanding at a diplomatic banquet led to disaster. A human aide accidentally caused a Gorax delegate to stumble, a misstep misinterpreted by the Gorax as an assassination attempt. The Gorax reacted with immediate and deadly force, killing the aide and several security personnel before the situation could be contained. This incident, broadcasted live, ignited a firestorm of fear and anger across Earth. Calls for retaliation resounded, overpowering cries for calm and negotiation. Within hours, the Gorax issued their own ultimatum, demanding severe reprimands and reparations. When Earth's assembly hesitated, seeking to first investigate the incident thoroughly, the Gorax interpreted it as stalling and deceit. 2 days later, the skies darkened as Gorax warships descended into Earth's orbit, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons that devastated several major cities. Thus began the Great Interstellar War, pulling humanity into a conflict far beyond anything they were prepared for. Captain Marcus Donovan, a skilled pilot and tactician in the Earth Defense Force, watched as his home city was laid to waste. With a heavy heart, he boarded his spacecraft, part of the hastily assembled squadron meant to retaliate against the Gorax's initial assault. Little did he know, his role in the ensuing war would be far more significant than just another pilot in the chaos. As he rocketed into the blackness of space, his resolve hardened. This was humanity's fight for survival, and it was just beginning. Captain Marcus Donovan's squadron was part of Earth's desperate counteroffensive, engaging Gorax forces in the outer reaches of the solar system. Their mission, to disrupt the alien fleet's formation and delay their approach toward Earth's remaining defenses. Marcus piloted his fighter with precision and bravery, weaving through asteroid fields and enemy fire alike. His squadron inflicted significant damage, taking down several Gorax fighters and even a capital ship. But the Gorax's technological superiority soon overwhelmed them. In a daring maneuver, Marcus's team penetrated deep into enemy territory, aiming to target the Gorax's command ship. As they approached, a sudden barrage of energy pulses disabled the human fighter's engines and weapon systems. The Gorax had deployed an advanced electromagnetic pulse weapon, something Earth's intelligence hadn't anticipated. Stranded and powerless in the vacuum of space, Marcus and his team were easy targets. One by one, their ships were tethered and towed aboard the Gorax warship. Inside the alien vessel, the gravity of their situation quickly set in. They were herded through stark metallic corridors, lined with strange luminescent symbols and guarded by towering Gorax soldiers. The air was thick with a chemical tang, an atmosphere suited to the aliens but harsh and bitter to human lungs. Marcus and his fellow pilots were thrown into a containment cell, a clear energy-based barrier trapping them. The Gorax interrogator, a particularly large specimen with a deep, resonant clicking voice, made it clear that they were not considered prisoners of war, but enemies of the Gorax Empire. The interrogator explained that the humans would be subjected to procedures to extract information and study their resilience. This, the Gorax believed, would ensure no future human resistance could succeed. Marcus, despite the grim circumstances, refused to break under the aliens' gaze. He knew the survival of his team, and potentially that of humanity, depended on their ability to resist and escape. As he was taken away for the first series of experiments, He observed every detail of their surroundings, the guards' routines, and the technology that might be exploited for an escape. The Gorax warship, a fortress of alien engineering orbiting a desolate moon, became a cold home to Marcus and his fellow captives. Their days fell into a harsh pattern: confinement, experimentation, and brief periods of rest under the watchful eyes of their captors. The Gorax were relentless. Their experiments varied from invasive physiological procedures to brutal tests of physical endurance. Marcus and the other prisoners were subjected to extreme temperatures, vacuum exposure, and artificial gravity tests. These were not merely to torture. They were meticulously recorded and analyzed by the Gorax, who seemed to be searching for any human weakness to exploit in the war. But the human spirit proved resilient. Despite the pain and the bleak odds, Marcus's resolve only hardened. He became a pillar of strength for his squadron, urging them to keep their spirits up and to look for any sign of weakness in their captors' routines or technology. He noticed that the guards changed shifts at regular intervals, and that certain panels on the cell walls flickered at times, indicating possible malfunctions or design flaws. One day, a new element was introduced to their trials. The Gorax brought in a device that seemed to stimulate and read neurological responses. As they attached sensors to Marcus's temples, he gritted his teeth, preparing for pain. Instead, the machine induced vivid hallucinations, scenes of Earth being destroyed, his squadron suffering, his family in peril. It was psychological torture, designed to break his will. However, the device provided Marcus with critical information. He realized that if he could somehow control his response and manipulate what the sensors read, he might be able to feed false information to the Gorax or even sabotage their systems. Over the next few sessions, he experimented, focusing his mind on different thoughts and observing the Gorax scientists' reactions. He began to understand how to influence the device, masking his true mental state and feeding them calculated responses. Meanwhile, Marcus also made an unlikely ally. One of the lower-ranked Gorax technicians, who seemed disillusioned with the war, occasionally made small talk with Marcus during maintenance checks on the cell. The technician, named Tharek, revealed that not all Gorax supported the war or the treatment of prisoners. Sensing an opportunity, Marcus cautiously built a rapport with Tharek, sharing stories of Earth and its people, highlighting their love for peace and their forced entry into the war. As trust grew between them, Marcus pitched a dangerous proposal: help them escape in exchange for asylum on Earth, where Tharek could live free from the war. After days of hesitation, Tharek agreed, swayed by the promise of a new life and his growing disillusionment with his superior's zeal. The plan was set for the shift change during the Gorax's lesser-guarded third cycle, when fewer eyes and fewer weapons patrolled the halls. Tharek had provided Marcus with a schematic of the ship's layout, including a discreet route to the armory where they could arm themselves. The energy cell of their confinement was the first obstacle, but Tharek, true to his word, deactivated it remotely at the agreed moment. Marcus led his fellow prisoners out of their cell, moving silently along the dimly lit corridors. The oppressive mechanical ambiance of the Gorax ship seemed to pulse with anticipation. Every shadow and every sound heightened their tension as they crept towards the armory. Inside, they found more than enough weaponry to arm themselves: energy rifles and pulse grenades, alien technology that was unfamiliar but intuitively designed. Marcus distributed the weapons, giving a crash course on their basic operations. The group, now transformed from prisoners to insurgents, moved with renewed purpose. Their next target was the control room. Control of the ship would give them access to communications, navigation, and perhaps most importantly, the life support systems, leverage against their captors. As they approached, however, they encountered resistance. A patrol, larger than expected, rounded a corner ahead of them. A firefight erupted in the narrow corridor. Energy blasts seared the metallic walls as Marcus and his team took cover. Using tactical hand signals, Marcus coordinated a counterattack. The humans' advantage lay in their desperation and unpredictability, using guerrilla tactics that the disciplined Gorax were not prepared for. They pushed forward, overcoming the patrol with a fierce determination. Casualties were inevitable, though, and Marcus felt each loss deeply as they advanced. With the patrol down, they secured the control room with surprising ease. Most of the ship's crew were stationed externally, dealing with repairs and monitoring from other sectors. Tharek remotely locked down the room, sealing them in. The control panel was a complex array of alien script and holographic displays, but Tharek guided them through, enabling communications. Marcus sent out a distress signal to any Earth Defense Force units in range, providing their coordinates and the situation. The message was a gamble. There was no sure way to know if it had reached Earth or if they had the capabilities to mount a rescue so deep in enemy territory. As they fortified their position, preparing to defend the control room, Marcus planned their final move. Using the ship's life support controls as leverage, he broadcast an ultimatum to the Gorax crew. Return them to Earth unharmed, or he would vent the ship's atmosphere, sacrificing all aboard, including himself and his team. The standoff was tense, with hours dragging on as they awaited a response. It wasn't until a Gorax commander finally contacted them via the comlink that Marcus knew his gamble had paid off. The commander, speaking with a tone of grudging respect, agreed to negotiate terms. However, Marcus was aware that this was only a temporary reprieve. They needed to maintain control until Earth forces could arrive, and there was no telling what tricks the Gorax might still have up their sleeves. In that cramped control room, surrounded by his dwindling team, Marcus felt the weight of leadership heavier than ever. They had turned the tables, but the game was far from over. The true test of their resolve and resourcefulness was just beginning. As the Gorax commander reluctantly initiated negotiations, Marcus and his team fortified their position within the control room. They set up defensive perimeters and monitored the ship's internal surveillance to track enemy movements. Despite their tactical disadvantage, the control room offered control over critical ship systems, which Marcus used to assert their position. While Marcus handled the high-stakes negotiation, Tharek worked diligently to reroute the ship's course. Their objective was to move the ship closer to the known coordinates of the nearest human outpost. If they could get within rescue range, the Earth Defense Force might be able to extract them. Tharek's intimate knowledge of the ship's navigation systems was crucial, bypassing security protocols and initiating a stealth course correction. Meanwhile, Marcus continued his delicate dialogue with the Gorax commander. He emphasized their resolve and willingness to go to extremes if their safety was not guaranteed. The commander, underestimating the human capacity for tactical innovation, agreed to a temporary ceasefire, unaware of the ship's change in course. Hours turned into a tense waiting game. Marcus and his team kept vigilant, rotating shifts to maintain alertness and readiness. They also took the opportunity to learn more about the Gorax technology from Tharek, understanding its mechanics and potential weaknesses. This knowledge not only prepared them for possible counterattacks but also provided valuable intelligence to relay back to Earth. Unexpectedly, the ship's alarm system blared. A squadron of Gorax fighters had been dispatched to intercept and regain control of the warship. Marcus knew that their situation just escalated from a standoff to a potential firefight with a highly trained enemy force. He rallied his team, assigning them to strategic positions around the control room and the main access points. As the Gorax fighters approached, Marcus initiated a daring bluff. He used the ship's communication system to broadcast a message to the incoming squadron, claiming that they had rigged the ship to self-destruct if any attempt to breach the control room was made. To add credibility to his bluff, he ordered the release of a controlled burst of energy from the ship's core, simulating a preparatory self-destruct sequence. The bluff worked momentarily, causing hesitation among the Gorax pilots. This hesitation allowed the Earth Defense Force, which had received Marcus's distress call and coordinates, to intercept the Gorax fighters. A fierce battle ensued outside the ship, visible from the control room's viewports as flashes of light and explosions in the cold expanse of space. Marcus used this external distraction to consolidate their hold on the ship. He and his team conducted a quick raid on the ship's armory for additional weapons and supplies, bolstering their defenses. Tharek, proving his allegiance, disabled further internal security measures that could impede their control. As the battle outside tilted in favor of the Earth forces, thanks to the intelligence and the strategic advantage provided by controlling the Gorax ship, Marcus received a transmission from an Earth admiral. Reinforcements were on their way, and a plan was set to dock with the Gorax ship for extraction. With Earth forces securing the perimeter around the ship, Marcus and his team prepared to leave their alien prison. They gathered any valuable technology and intelligence they could carry, ensuring that their ordeal provided not only a spectacular escape, but also a treasure trove of information that could shift future engagements in humanity's favor. The Gorax quickly realized their strategic blunder, and the resilience of their human adversaries. As Marcus and his team boarded the rescue shuttles, they left behind a crippled Gorax warship and a clear message: underestimate humanity at your peril. As Marcus and his team made their escape, the Gorax fleet regrouped for a counterattack, desperate to reclaim their compromised warship and retain their technological secrets. The human fleet, bolstered by the arrival of reinforcements, prepared for a critical confrontation. Marcus, although weary, understood the importance of their next move. The intelligence gathered from the Gorax ship could potentially shift the power dynamics of the ongoing war, but only if they managed to return it to Earth. Aboard the lead Earth Defense Force ship, Marcus coordinated with Admiral Garcia, the fleet commander. They reviewed the battlefield's layout, noting the Gorax fleet's positions and devising a strategy to exploit the enemy's hastily organized formation. The Gorax, enraged and perhaps underestimating the human force's resolve, pressed forward. As the two fleets clashed, Marcus's experience from his time on the Gorax ship proved invaluable. He suggested using decoy maneuvers that mirrored the Gorax's own tactics, which he had observed during his captivity. The Earth ships feigned a retreat, drawing the Gorax fleet into a narrow sector crowded with debris from earlier skirmishes. This maneuver limited the movement of the larger Gorax ships, making them easier targets for the more agile human fighters. The battle was brutal. Energy blasts lit up the void of space, each exchange of fire a potential death sentence. Marcus, aboard the command ship, provided real-time intelligence, pointing out weaknesses and directing Earth pilots to critical targets. The tide began to turn as the Gorax fleet, caught off guard by the ferocity and strategic acumen of the human forces, started to falter. Amidst the chaos, a Gorax dreadnought managed to break through the Earth's defensive line, aiming its heavy weapons directly at the ship carrying the crucial data. Recognizing the threat, Marcus volunteered for a risky mission to intercept the dreadnought. Piloting a small, heavily armed shuttle, he darted through the battlefield towards the looming enemy vessel. Navigating through a hail of fire, Marcus reached the dreadnought and launched a series of precision strikes at its propulsion systems. The dreadnought, disabled but still dangerous, drifted helplessly as additional Earth forces swarmed to secure the victory. Marcus's shuttle, damaged in the encounter, barely made it back to the fleet. With the Gorax fleet in disarray and the dreadnought neutralized, the remaining enemy ships began to retreat. Admiral Garcia hailed Marcus as a hero, his actions having saved countless lives and secured a victory that would be celebrated across Earth. However, the cost was palpable, the debris field around them a solemn reminder of the sacrifices made. As the fleet prepared to return to Earth, Marcus felt a mix of triumph and sorrow. He looked out at the stars, pondering the war's toll and the lives lost. Yet, there was hope. The intelligence they had secured from the Gorax ship opened new avenues for peace and technological advancement. It was a hard-won victory, but one that brought humanity closer to ending the conflict. As the Earth Defense Force fleet made its approach toward Earth, the gravity of their victory and the losses incurred began to weigh heavily on everyone aboard. Marcus, despite the weariness etched into his face, stood tall, ready to debrief the military command and share the vital intelligence gleaned from their ordeal. The ship buzzed with activity, crew members and soldiers preparing for the reception on the ground, a mix of celebration for their victory and mourning for the fallen. Upon landing, the atmosphere was solemn yet charged with a sense of resilience. Marcus and his team were met with salutes and somber smiles as they disembarked. The media swarmed around, capturing the moment of return, broadcasting images of the war-weary heroes to homes around the world. Families of the crew and soldiers were there too, tearful reunions unfolding as Marcus watched on, a reminder of the personal stakes behind their cosmic conflict. Admiral Garcia accompanied Marcus to the debriefing room, where top military officials and representatives of the global government awaited. Marcus presented the data from the Gorax ship, detailing not only the technological insights, but also the strategic methodologies of the Gorax military. This information promised a significant advantage in the ongoing war efforts and potential defenses against future conflicts. Following the debriefing, Marcus was honored at a formal ceremony. His courage and leadership were recognized with high military honors. Despite the accolades, Marcus's speech turned the focus back to his team and the sacrifices made by all who fought. He spoke of the need for continued vigilance and preparedness, but also for hope that the end of the war could lead to lasting peace. In the days that followed, Marcus's life shifted from the front lines to the training grounds. He was appointed to lead a special tactics unit, tasked with integrating the new technologies and strategies into the Earth Defense Force's arsenal. His first-hand experience with the Gorax technology made him an invaluable asset, not just in warfare tactics, but also in bridging the gap between advanced alien tech and human ingenuity. But Marcus's thoughts often drifted to the broader implications of their encounter with the Gorax. The war had shown him the depth of potential cruelty and destruction, but also the incredible resilience and unity of humankind. He pondered the future interactions with the Gorax and other alien species, hoping for a shift from confrontation to coexistence. His role as a trainer brought him into contact with young, eager soldiers, ready to defend Earth. Marcus found a new purpose in mentoring these recruits, sharing not just tactical knowledge but also his belief in the importance of diplomacy and understanding in galactic relations. He stressed the need for readiness to defend, but also the wisdom to seek peace. As peace talks with the Gorax began, facilitated by the release of previously unknown information about their culture and motives, Marcus was invited to share his experiences at a diplomatic summit. Here he spoke not just as a soldier, but as a survivor and a proponent for a new chapter of interstellar relations. The conclusion of the summit marked a tentative but hopeful beginning to a ceasefire. As Marcus returned home, the quiet of his own space gave him time to reflect. The war had changed him, molded him into a leader, a survivor, and a hopeful peacemaker. He looked up at the stars, now not just a battlefield but a frontier of possibilities. The story of Marcus Donovan closed on a note of cautious optimism, a world weary of war but hopeful for peace, guided by those who had seen the darkest depths of conflict and yet strived for a brighter, united future. In the months following the ceasefire, Earth began a period of reconstruction and reflection. The war had left scars across the globe, both in the physical destruction of cities and the emotional devastation within communities. Marcus, having transitioned from a frontline warrior to a key figure in post-war recovery, focused on rebuilding efforts not only for Earth's infrastructure, but also for its interstellar defense capabilities. The insights from the Gorax technology proved transformative. Under Marcus's guidance, the Earth Defense Force established new protocols for integrating alien technology with human engineering. This led to advancements in energy efficiency, propulsion systems, and defensive capabilities, ensuring that Earth would not be caught off guard again. Marcus also advocated for the establishment of a new department within the United Nations, the Office of Interstellar Affairs, OIA, dedicated to managing Earth's relations with alien civilizations. As a respected war hero and a witness to the complexities of alien interaction, Marcus was appointed as the inaugural director. His first task was to set up communication channels with other potential extraterrestrial allies and adversaries, creating a network of information and diplomacy to prevent future conflicts. Meanwhile, the peace talks with the Gorax evolved into complex negotiations, aiming to establish a formal peace treaty. Marcus played a critical role, using his experience as a prisoner and his understanding of the Gorax's respect for strength to navigate the discussions. He emphasized mutual benefits over past grievances, proposing joint ventures in space exploration and resource sharing. On the home front, the public's perception of the Gorax slowly began to shift. Educational programs, spearheaded by the OIA, were launched to teach about Gorax culture and the miscommunications that had led to the war. These efforts were bolstered by broadcasts of joint human-Gorax cultural exchanges, which Marcus often hosted, helping to humanize the former enemy in the eyes of Earth citizens. The economic boost from new technologies and the stabilization of political systems led to a resurgence in global optimism. Marcus, seeing the tangible results of his work, felt a profound sense of accomplishment, though he remained vigilant. The universe was vast and unpredictable, and the peace established with the Gorax was just the beginning of what he hoped would be a broader galactic community. As Marcus attended the inauguration of the first joint Earth-Gorax research facility, he reflected on the long journey from warfighter to peacemaker. He addressed the crowd, speaking of the need for continuous effort in building trust and cooperation among the stars. His words resonated not just with those present, but across the world, broadcasted as a beacon of Earth's new role in the cosmos. Several years passed, and Earth's alliance with the Gorax strengthened, becoming a cornerstone of interstellar stability. The joint ventures had flourished, bringing about advancements in technology and science that benefited both species. Marcus, now a seasoned director of the Office of Interstellar Affairs, had successfully navigated multiple diplomatic challenges, establishing Earth as a significant player in the cosmic arena. However, the peace was suddenly threatened. A new, enigmatic force emerged on the fringes of known space, targeting not just human or Gorax outposts, but various alien civilizations across the galaxy. This new enemy, known only as the Void Collective, operated with a ruthlessness and efficiency that sent ripples of fear through the interstellar community. The first sign of trouble came when a human mining colony on the outer rim was obliterated without warning. Surveillance footage captured only shadows and the faint outline of ships unlike any seen before, a technology that seemed to bend light and space. The attack was over before any defense could be mounted, leaving no survivors. Marcus was pulled back into a wartime footing almost overnight. The Earth Defense Force, under his advisement, went on high alert, but there was a palpable sense of unease. The Void Collective's ability to strike without detection and disappear without a trace made them a ghostly and terrifying adversary. Recognizing the scale of the threat, Marcus proposed a radical idea: an interstellar summit, inviting not only the Gorax but also other alien species affected by the Void Collective's aggression. The summit, held on a neutral space station, was a tense affair. Representatives from various civilizations shared their encounters with the Void Collective, piecing together a profile of a foe that seemed to eschew all forms of communication and diplomacy, driven solely by conquest and destruction. During the summit, Marcus met with various leaders in closed-door sessions, forging tentative alliances based on mutual defense and intelligence sharing. His experience with the Gorax and his deep understanding of interstellar diplomacy helped bridge cultural and historical divides between the species. Together, they formed a coalition, pooling their resources and information in hopes of identifying weaknesses in the Void Collective's tactics. The breakthrough came from a joint Gorax human scientific team, which managed to trace the origin of the Void ships through quantum signature analysis. This led the coalition to a distant and previously uncharted system, which seemed to serve as the Collective's staging ground for attacks. Marcus advocated for a preemptive strike, arguing that waiting for the Void Collective to attack again would result in unnecessary losses. With a coalition fleet assembled, including Earth and Gorax warships alongside other alien vessels, Marcus found himself once again at the forefront of an interstellar conflict. As the fleet neared the Void system, tensions ran high. The Collective was aware of their approach, launching a formidable defense. The battle was fierce, with Marcus coordinating the coalition forces from the command ship. Despite heavy losses, the coalition's diverse technologies and tactics began to overpower the Collective's defenses. In the heat of battle, Marcus realized that this new enemy, though formidable, lacked one thing that his coalition had in abundance: unity. The Void Collective's ships fought independently, without the cooperation or cohesion that characterized his own fleet. The coalition's victory was hard-won but decisive. The Void Collective's main base was destroyed, and their fleet scattered. Marcus, though relieved, knew that the victory was only the beginning of a longer struggle to ensure the safety of the galaxy.